All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Humans of Flippa. I'm your host, Steve McGarry, and I am joined by Maggie Ortlieb, and she was the founder of VegOut. How you doing, Maggie?
Well, thanks for having me. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. I'm going to start with a quick sort of background here of Maggie's story. So, the journey into the world of the plant-based living and content creation began in Los Angeles, and it was inspired by kind of the vegan food scene there. And she started Veg Out in 2016, so quite some time ago, and grew it, scaled it, and went through a successful exit. And I think there's a lot of really cool aspects of this to unpack, but I'd love to start with your background from yourself. Like, how did you get started and how did Veg Out kind of come to fruition?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, started in LA in 2016. I'm originally from Michigan, so I moved out there not really knowing what to expect or with any type of job lined up. Just moved out. My background's in marketing and advertising. So moved out, started working anything I could find. And then um, this, vegan community, I didn't realize it was so big out there. And that really became a passion of mine was going to different events, going to restaurants, just checking out the best the scene had to offer out there. So as I was doing so, I realized there was kind of a hole, a missing piece. People were offering all these great options, but then they were having trouble getting customers, or people wanted to find options and they were having trouble finding them. And so I saw an opportunity to be kind of the middleman and do a curated guide. So we really started as Veg Out really started as like a city guide, kind of like a timeout or something like that, an eater um, as a passion project. I was working a full-time corporate, marketing job at the time, and this is what I did before and after work, and I didn't really even anticipate for it to become a business. So that was yeah, it was really, from what it was back in 2016 to what it became when I sold it, it was pretty cool to watch it grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And at what point did you kind of the idea of selling the business become serious? Like when you were actually kind of starting to prepare and getting ready?
Yeah, so, I first thought about start selling the business a few years ago. I kinda hit this point where of intense burnout, and I loved starting the brand and creating the brand and, getting it going, and that's really my sweet spot. What I'm really great at is taking something from 0 to 10, and then after that, it's like, "Okay, I wanna hand it off to someone who can manage and kinda oversee operations." Um, but I didn't know that at the time, so I had no intention to exit the company when I started it. I thought this is what I'd be doing for the rest of my life, and so, yeah, so a few years ago, I was going through intense burnout. I had explored selling, had a few offers, didn't really work out, just wasn't the right fit. So then I continued working the company. About a year later, same thing, kinda went through that whole process of potentially looking for buyers and talking to people, again, didn't work out, and so so then I came across Flippa, listed it there, and that was just a pretty quick process, from the time but I so from the time I had listed it to selling, it was pretty quick, but I had had this idea in my head for quite some time, so I'd say, like, 3 or 4 years.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Let's kind of go through the journey of the business. How did it generate revenue and what was the business model?
Yeah, so, started online, and then at some point, about 4 or 5 years in, we launched a print magazine, and that was distributed across the country, Whole Foods, Barnes& and Noble, all the big retailers for magazines. So, obviously, we're getting revenue from subscriptions and from selling in retailers, as well as print advertisers. But then, just a couple years ago, stopped the print magazine and went fully digital again. And so with the digital side, we're bringing in money through affiliate partnerships. So when we sell a product through our website, um, promoting a brand, we get a commission from that. And then also flat rate partnerships. So if a brand we work with that we really love wanted to sponsor a newsletter or a social media post or something like that, we would work with them on a flat rate basis. and then we also got ad revenue through, um, just through, like, programmatic advertising on our website, so that's kinda like all the banner ads you see when you visit a website. Um, so yeah, really those 3 main sources, the flat rate, the programmatic, and the affiliate.
Nice. Very nice.
Mhm.
So what were some of the milestones that you hit as you were kind of defining the growth of the business, defining these channels, because those are very specific revenue generators?
Yeah, well, I think the milestones I guess there's the financial milestones, and then there's the milestones that are kind of more intangible, just the experiences and the people we were able to work with. But milestones as far as, like, the financial side go, I think it was well, it was actually it was pretty interesting because when I started the business, we didn't make money for 3 or 4 years, and I had my corporate job at the time. And then and then I found out about affiliate marketing. I didn't even know that was a thing. So then I started joining all these programs. Um, and then I found out about programmatic ad so I feel like it was like I added one thing at a time. So I grew this audience. I had this huge audience. And then I found out, "Oh, yeah, I can monetize this." So it was such a gradual kind of learning process over time, and a gradual build of, like, revenue. So it was never like this, "Oh, we made, a ton of money this month or whatever." It was kind of this gradual build. But out of like our affiliate partners, even though we were partnered with, hundreds of brands, I would say just a handful, like 2 or 3 were really successful. And so just by looking at data and looking at what was doing well, we could kind of tell, okay, let's do more of this and let's work with this brand. And we were able to make quite good money just from a couple affiliate partnerships.
Nice. And when it came to like marketing and growth strategies, that really seems to be where you thrived here. What were some of the ones that stood out? Was it SEO because it was very like content heavy, partnerships, like you mentioned brands? What were some of the standouts?
Really SEO, but that was something like I'm so right now I'm working on another site and building it out, and SEO in 2025 is so different from SEO in 2016 or, when I was working originally on the VegOut. Um, but so SEO is huge once we, like, launched the website, um, which was pretty early on, but we kind of flipped around from platform to platform and then finally got on WordPress, and once we were on WordPress, that's really when I started focusing on SEO. But what was nice is even without a focus on SEO, just for some of these keywords, we were ranking because there wasn't a whole lot of competition at the time, so we were just ranking naturally, and I didn't even have to have an SEO strategy. It's a little bit different now, but we still tried to incorporate a lot of the, like, SEO, strategy into what we were doing, and it helped with the audience, growth online. And then really the big platform at the time was Instagram, and kinda got on right in 2016, and not a whole lot of people were doing this type of content, and that's really what kind of, amplified our growth in the beginning, and we were able to grow the Los Angeles page on Instagram to, 121,000 followers. So, yeah, that kinda blew up in the early days.
Got it. Got it. And let's shift gears to the sales process. How did you kind of mentioned that you found out about Flippa? How was the support throughout the sale? What was that like?
Yeah, it was super easy. I was actually shocked at how easy it was. I was expecting I'd have to do a lot more lift on my end, especially when I was trying to just sell without a middleman and trying to do it all myself. I just felt, I mean, especially as a woman in business, like, I felt a lot of times I was kind of sitting across the table from someone who was just grilling me with questions, and there wasn't a lot of, like, support on my end. So it was really nice having that person in the middle who just, "This is what we need, and this is how it works." And luckily, like, the buyers on Flippa seem to be familiar if they're repeat buyers, they seem to be familiar with the process. And, like, the profile, you just fill I just put all of the info in, so they knew our revenue, they knew, our business model, all of that ahead of time, so they weren't just, hounding me with questions, which was really, really nice. So the process from start to finish was very, very seamless.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
And when it came to preparing, How did you prepare the business, and what kind of steps did you take to attract the buyers?
So I think so I mentioned originally thinking about selling 4 or 5 years ago, and at that time, I read a book on, exiting, selling business, and I was doing a lot of learning, reading, researching other people who had sold their businesses. So I kinda started thinking about what are some things that a buyer might be interested at that point, and that really allowed me to have an advantage since I started kind of even if it wasn't completely conscious, like, subconsciously, I was preparing my business to sell over the past few years, um, especially by getting rid of that print magazine. I think if we had still had that print magazine, it would have been a lot more complicated, but this was very straightforward. I sold to someone who already had a media company, so he was familiar with how it all works. They were simply taking the brand that I built and adding it to their portfolio of sites, and so, luckily, there wasn't a whole lot of, onboarding or offboarding and, just, having to explain a lot of things. It was like they already knew how it worked. They really just wanted the brand that I built and the audience. And, yeah, it was really just like a pretty simple handoff, but I just made sure that, everything everything was in order, just cleaned up everything on our end, before getting it ready to hand over.
Nice. And how'd you go about determining the valuation?
I just used Flippa's. I mean, I had a number in my head of what I thought it would be worth just based on my experience in the past of trying to sell, um, but and my research, but then when I went through Flippa's, I think there's actually, like, a valuation tool. When I went through that, it gave me a number, and so I listed it for the number it gave me, and then I just, like, lowered it a little bit to try to get a quicker offer.
Hmm. Nice. And let's talk about the broker. Like, what was that like, and how did the broker support you throughout the process?
Yeah, like I mentioned, it was seamless. So, yeah, she just said on both ends, "This is what I need." So whether it was from me or from the buyer, "This is what I need." And if I had any questions, since this was my first time selling a company, I could message her privately, and she would be helpful. But yeah, I felt supported all the way through. I think it's really nice. I didn't feel like I was alone? Am I making, the wrong decision? Am I not getting enough for the sale of my company that I've worked so hard on?
Hmm.
Um, I felt like I was making like a good solid decision in selling and I was getting, what it was worth and I felt supported throughout.
Nice. Very nice. And how long was the end-to-end process? You briefly mentioned it was pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was leaving for Europe to go visit my sister and I was like, maybe I should just list my company. And so I filled out the, profile and all of that. It took me, a couple hours. And then or maybe not even, filled everything out. And then within I think 2 or 3 days, I had an offer for what I was asking. So in the past, when I was selling, like, by myself, a lot of lowball offers, and so it was just really difficult. I thought, "Okay, I'm just gonna get a bunch of lowball offers." Nope, they were looking in the price range that I listed for, and they offered exactly what I was asking for, so I accepted it, and, from the time I accepted it, I to be honest, I was, like, not it all happened so fast that I was like, wait, I still have some work to do. Like, I still have to deliver some partnerships and I still have some things to do on our end. So I just negotiated kind of with the buyer of, give me 2 weeks and then we can hand everything over and I'll be done with it. I wasn't going to be involved after that. So, yeah, I mean, he was ready to take over right away. So it was super quick. I think it was like 2 to 3 days is when I got the offer. And then 2 weeks after that, I was done with the company.
Wow. Wow, that's super fast. Super
Yeah.
fast. What were some pivotal moments, like some make or break decisions that you had to make?
Within the company or, like, during the selling process?
During the negotiations and just the overall sales process.
Yeah, I mean, I think any first-time founder and first-time seller, probably feels this emotional attachment to the brand they built, and this was what I spent the last 10 or so years doing, so I think that was one thing a few years ago when I first tried to sell, I was very attached to okay, what's the buyer gonna do with it? Like, what are they, are they gonna continue building what, I set out to build, and this is my mission and all of that. And then with this sale, I think I was much less attached to that, and I was like, "You know what? They're gonna do what they want with the company, and that's up to them, and I have no control over that." And so I had to just let go of all of the emotional side, of selling, but yeah, I feel like that was super liberating, and it made the whole process easier. I don't know if that answered your question, but but yeah, I feel like just letting go of all of the emotional attachment and, like, the hangups around, okay, I wasn't, like, grilling them with questions on, "What are you gonna do with it?" And this and that. It was more just like, "Okay, like, you understand how a media company works. Got it. This is," they already knew our site. They did the research, and so it was pretty simple.
Nice. Yeah, the compromises are tricky for sure. And I think it's a good segue into lessons. Like what were some of the lessons that you learned and that you could share with entrepreneurs listening?
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the big lessons was, yeah, the new buyer did go a different direction, and so that was something that, it still does. It's like, "Oh, yeah, I would have done things differently," but I've learned I just need to unfollow, not look at it, like, that's their vision and their company and, like, not mine anymore, and so I need to go focus on what I'm building next instead of what I built in the past. And for those 10 or 11 years that I was working on VegOut, I'm proud of everything my team and I did, and so, and I'm proud of the exit. So I think just, like, being okay with the work you did during that time span and not getting hung up on, "Oh, but now I'm watching this business turn a different direction." And so that was a big lesson, like, just because you don't really know until you go through it and you're like, "Okay, yeah, this did go a different direction than I would have taken it." But also being okay with that, like, they bought it, it's theirs now, and they can do what they want with it. And then, I mean, I think the other lesson I learned is to always, like, I would recommend always having some kind of broker, middleman, service, platform, something when you're selling because it's tough. Like, people are gonna try to lowball you. People are gonna try to, get as much from you and give you as little as possible a lot of the times. I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of the times. So, if you're trying to sell a company on your own and it's your first time doing it, it's difficult, and so I'd recommend, like, big lesson is, like, sell through something like Flippa or another platform. It's a huge help, eliminates a lot of headaches, and, yeah, and then another lesson is just, like, make sure when you're setting your pricing, it's like, are you factoring in the taxes you're gonna have to pay on the sale? Are you factoring in, what do I need to, like, live off of for the next, you know, few months while I'm building the next thing, or am I gonna go get a corporate job? So I think all of the financial planning too is, like, you really have to factor that in, when you're pricing out the company. So, like, if you can't value the company and, like, actually get an offer for what you need to survive, then I'd recommend continuing to build. There's obviously exceptions if you just need to something life event comes up and you need to, like, move on. But yeah, I think just really thinking about the number in your head and using a valuation tool and all of that to get what you feel you need to live on and to just build your next company.
Hmm. And when it comes to like the sort of emotional impact of all of this, how did your life change in terms of ways that you didn't think it would change emotionally from all this?
um well, one, I think it gave me the confidence to, it's like, okay, I did this, now I can do it again, or now I can go build something else. So it did give me, like, some confidence, I'll say. So that was a positive. I think I wasn't expecting to feel such relief because I thought I was gonna be like, "Oh, I'm not gonna have, work to do." Like, I worked on Veg Out every day, like, 12 plus hours a day, for the last 10 years. I mean, I was working hard on it. Even when I did scale it and had other people working for me, I was still just grinding. And so to go from that to, like, truly being present and not working all of the time, at least for, like, a few weeks. Now I'm back to working on something else, but, taking some time off, it was so nice and much needed, and, I mean, I wish everyone could just take a 2-month break, and just spend it doing what they wanna do and recharging. Because especially as entrepreneurs, we get really burnt out, we push ourselves, and it's important to just take time, like, recharging and doing other things. Um, yeah, like, it was a huge weight lifted off my shoulder, for sure. So I think there was that, and then there was also some, "Dang, did I make the right decision?" Not regret, but kind of like, "Did I make the right decision?" And I think I finally came to the point, now where I'm, like, past that, like, I'm like, "Yeah, I made the right decision." But I think for a minute, I was kinda like, "Oh, shoot, did I mess up?" So I think it's definitely, like, a mixed bag of emotions, for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. For sure. So you mentioned like the unfollow and we're going to follow the new direction, but was there any involvement with the company after the sale? Was it a clean break? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was a clean break. So, as I mentioned, they were equipped to just take on
Hmm.
VegOut, add it to their portfolio of brands. They knew how content works. They already had a way to monetize. And so they didn't need really any direction from me. They already knew all of these things, which was super nice because I didn't have to I didn't have to stay on, which is not something I wanted to do, because things can get a little messy, I think, when a founder stays on. It can work out, but it can also get messy. So yeah, they were able to just take the company, implement their ads and their monetization model and run with it. So that was nice.
Nice. And let's shift to advice for entrepreneurs listening. If somebody listening is thinking about selling, what kind of high level advice would you give them?
Do your research. That's where you need to start. If you're thinking about selling, just start looking into it. Like what does it look like? Like, read every book you can find. I think, that helped me a lot. Yeah, until you go through it, you don't know what it's gonna be like, but definitely do your research. Also, I highly recommend Flippa, like, it worked for me, especially if you have an online company. I think Flippa or a competitor is really nice because it makes it super simple. Um, and then, I mean, I was gonna say put your feelers out there, reach out to your network, whatever. But for me, I did that in the past, and some of the people I was going to sell to, just on my own, it was like kind of they were flaky. They were interested, then they weren't, then they weren't, and that's what was nice about Flip is I just set my price, and then someone made an offer. So I'd recommend not getting too attached to this ideal buyer of like who you want to run your company. I think you just need to, if you're looking to sell, yeah, other things are important, but if you're getting the price you want for it, I think that's what you need to prioritize versus, okay, I want someone who's vegan, I want someone who is this and that, and finding that person who also is going to give you your asking price is a lot. That's a lot to ask. So, yeah, be realistic about it. So, yeah, do your research, find a platform like Flippa, and be realistic about your expectations, and what and then also have in mind what you're going to do next. I think that's a big thing is people sell and then it feels a bit like retirement because you're like, what do I do now? But have in mind, like, what do you don't have to know exactly, but do you want to go back to the corporate world? Do you want to build something else? Do you want to invest? Do you want to help other entrepreneurs? Like, what do you want to do after?
Hmm. So if you could go back and do something different about the journey, what would you do?
Well, I would probably sell when we were at our peak, but you never can predict that. It's like the stock market. Like, so we were making more money a few years before I sold, but I don't think I was ready to sell at the same time. So you have to kind of factor everything in. So yeah, I could have made probably twice what I walked away with, but I think I had a lot more work to do and growth and just, like, learning to do, and so I'm ultimately happy and I wouldn't change a thing, but yeah, it is like looking back, it's like, "Okay, if I sold then, I probably could've, made a little more money, but
Mhm. And there's a ton of mistakes that can be made, a lot of challenges throughout the whole process. How did you avoid just common pitfalls or common mistakes throughout the exit?
um again, just, like, researching everything,
Mhm.
asking my accountant for advice, like, if you wanna ask a lawyer, just make sure you have, like, professionals you can trust, to also help you through the process, um, but like I said, like, Flippa really outlined everything, so I didn't feel like there wasn't huge room for error. I just made sure that I was still researching everything on my own and making sure, "Okay, does this sound right? Does this seem like a legit offer? Do they seem like legit company?" All of that, like the buyer side. So, yeah, just do your research.
Got it. And what's next? What are you working on now?
Yeah, so I launched another, platform called Planetly, and so we're focused on sustainable travel. So before focused on vegan food primarily, and vegan lifestyle, and now I'm focused more on travel and sustainability and showing people, how can you explore the world but reduce your carbon footprint and, um, also still incorporating some of the plant-based vegan stuff into it as well. But yeah, working on another content site.
Nice. So do you think after all this, your definition of success has shifted a little bit? Has it changed completely just after going through the exit?
I think so. I think I used to when I was younger, I thought success was equal to, you know, dollars and money, and that was the only thing, but no, I think creating something from your head that you just make up and then it becomes a thing and then you scale it and then you sell it for whatever dollar amount, like, that's success, like, that's impressive, and so anyone who does that should be proud. Anyone who even builds a business, even if you have to dissolve it, should be proud because that's something that's really hard to do, and so, I see, like, fellow businesses shutting down, but it's just like, for however many years you were in business, like, that's an accomplishment, and I think just going against the grain, doing something different, that's success to me. I don't think you don't have to be multimillionaire, billionaire. It's like just like building something out of nothing, that's pretty cool.
Agreed. Agreed. So would you consider selling the next venture? Are you going to sell one in the future?
Definitely. I think I would. Right now I wanna focus on, taking everything I learned from VegOut and building something, that I'm really proud of, but I do think, like I said, I really love that beginning phase of, like, conceptualizing the brand and building the brand and all of that, and so I think down the road, I would consider selling for sure.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, those are all the questions that I have for you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Right on. Well, wherever you guys are listening on iTunes or Spotify or watching on YouTube, be sure to check out the show notes and links will be to things that Maggie mentioned. But thank you for watching The Humans of Flippa.